Hi guys, and welcome back to Pass and Move. And for today's episode, as promised, the Ajax game in the Europa League. A very interesting game, of course, and made even more interesting by our first Europa League game. So we'll get into that in just a moment. Let's talk about what happened since the last episode. Just so as you can see, we are top of the league in 18 points. Last season's Portuguese Premier League winners or Primeira Liga winners, Porto, are all the way down in 4th with 13 points. A bit of a surprise, but even though we're just 1 point ahead, of course we have to keep maintaining that good start that we've had so far, and hopefully we can keep that up and still be in the Champions League spots, if not winning the Primeira Liga. So, in terms of what happened since that last episode against Vitesse, we did have the game against Standard, which is why I was telling you it is important, of course, for us to perform today against Ajax. And the reason was that we had a draw against Standard in the first Europa League game. So this kind of proves the difference in, Standard, in quality between this, the teams that we drew in this year round in the Europa League group and in comparison to last year. So last year we had a bit of an easier group in this. Even though it's just one fixture, it's already proving to be difficult. You'd expect us to get results against Standard and Dynamo and instead struggle maybe a little bit against Ajax. That you can kind of understand. But either way, considering what happened, which was that we conceded 2 before half-time, managing to get a draw in the end was a decent result. With Fonte on the score sheet, as well as one of their own players managing to score no goals. It was a forced error, thanks to Paulino, who put in a really good ball into the box, and for some reason their player just accidentally knocked it in, kind of thing. But anyways, against both relegation, not relegation, I keep calling them relegation candidates. So actually, the teams who got promoted from the lower team, from the lower league rather, and we managed to get some really solid results. 2 clean sheets and 5 goals. We managed to score through Eduardo and Danilo against Portimonense. And against Olhanense, we also managed to score 3 goals, despite Jubal getting sent off in the 56th minute. We already had the game wrapped up though in the first half with Eduardo, Jubal as well himself. My players, whenever they get sent off, they don't like to just get sent off. They like to score and then get sent off. But either way, Raniel also on the score sheet there, so it was good to see him get a goal just before a very important game here against Ajax. But in terms of the Porto game, very disappointing to lose 1-0. Lucas Bigilia managing to score from a free kick, and we kind of really dominated this game. But despite that, we managed to lose, despite us being the home team, and so all the more reason to be upset with that result. But we still managed to stay top of the league, so couldn't complain too much. But of course, that let the other teams close the gap on us. The likes of Sporting and Benfica. But either way, it's still early in the season, so any result that we really get now doesn't matter too much. We'll get to know, a clearer picture of how our season is going to go further down the line, maybe around halfway through the season. But anyways, this is the team we'll be going with today, and we can talk about that more once the players just warm up. Andrea Moreira, of course, our goalkeeper for the Europa League competition, or any cup competition for that matter. We want to really try and develop him here, and so if we give him game time whenever it's the cup competitions, both goalkeepers would be happy with the game time. And in fact, I think Moreira might actually edge out game time just because of the amount of cup competitions Portugal have. The Portuguese Portuguese Premier League, Portuguese League Cup, the Taça de Portugal, the Super Taça. We're not in that this year, the Super Taça, to be fair, but even then, and of course we have the Europa League as well. Apparently we made favourites for today's game in terms of the odds, but the match analysis with Sebastian Gomez from ESPN FC, I would say he's a bit more accurate, because Hassan will be a big miss for us today, and I would say Ajax are the favourites despite being the away team. So they're playing in the same formation as us, typical Ajax tactics, I suppose, but apparently we are favourites, so let's go ahead with that and try and force a performance from our players here. And if we do better than the Dutch team, the famous Dutch Ajax team, I'll say that's a pretty good result, because we really do need the 3 points anyways. But yeah, in terms of what happened over that period, 4 games between last episode and this episode, it was a comeback draw against Standard. It was disappointing, but just because we came back, we can kind of be happy with that. But at the same time, we did dominate. Despite the result, we did dominate. We must have had about 5 times the amount of shots they had, but they still managed. Wow, okay, Ajax going all the way through. How can they let David Neres do that? That's just I was just being rude. But look at that. Our stadium's getting more packed up. Is that just me, guys? I think it's getting more packed out, really. But anyways, look at that. Both Assis and who's that? Wankar, both of them missing it. And then that huge deflection from Rosic. I didn't actually notice in the first replay. Completely wrong foot Moreira. Unlucky though. Still early. We won't really, have any knee-jerk reactions just yet and go into control. We'll relax for now, see what we can do on the counter, and then push up later on if need be. So up until the last game, Raniel was actually in poor form, so that's why I'm hoping his goal will actually put him in some better form. He's already managed to pick himself a yellow card, but of course as a striker I shouldn't worry too much. Hopefully now he doesn't get sent off and I jinxed it. It looks like they're really starting to dominate the game, Ajax, so we should push into control. They seem to not care about that favourites tag, and they're just playing as if they're their favourites. And yeah, in terms of the results against the newbies, really it's kind of routine wins. Nothing, they didn't really concern us, they didn't really dominate, they didn't really create anything of note, and we kind of just had standard wins over them. But yeah, the need for Raniel to really kick on is basically desperate because of Hassan being injured. We hugely miss him. Some of the chances Raniel had, maybe Hassan might have put away. Also this is his second season under me being in charge, so he might have been more adjusted to tactics. It's kind of why Raniel's not, oh, Danilo taking a ridiculous shot when there's about 4 people in the box there he could have crossed it to. But yeah, Raniel, this is his first season with us, so it kind of makes sense that he needs to adjust, and him having type of poor, I guess, performances is kind of expected while he adjusts. It's not really poor, it's more about quiet. He's not really having a bad start to his his career here at Braga, but he is definitely having a quite kind of like he's not adjusting as quick as we would have hoped because of Hassan. We didn't necessarily think he would adjust quickly. It's just that when Hassan got injured for a long period of time, we relied on Raniel to perform and perform well, but so far he's just kind of averaging it out. Hopefully next season he'll be better on. I would expect Hassan when he comes back to be more used to our tactics and that way perform better for us this season than he did last season. Of course, last season had some decent moments, but we really need him as a leading player in the division to really start performing, getting us the 20 plus goals that we need from a striker. Anyways, it looks like we need to make some substitutions, but no one necessarily needs to get going just yet. We've got the likes of Danilo and Rosic both tired, or a little bit tired. They're still, not exhausted. But we really need to be making attacking changes at this point. We can't, Ajax already going into the defensive. They're going to try and hold on to that 1-0 lead. So again, we need to try and get another draw, or at least, we want the win, but we need to at least try and push for the draw. We're going to take off Fonte for Checa. And there's no wingers who are just tired yet. I'll take off Wilson Eduardo for Fabio Martins. Martins kind of comes off the bench and still has a decent performance, so lately anyway, so I'm hoping to see more of the same today. Just let my substitutes know that they can really make a difference, and before that substitution happens we already have a highlight. So Guyano, what are you going to do? Decent ball up to Simiao. Simiao, can you put a good ball into the box? Ooh, instead it's a crossbar and Raniel's not quick enough on the spot to try and get a poacher's goal really. Here's a false 9 to be fair to him, but still. And yeah, I mean, we just really need our backup striker to perform ASAP. We're also, the game against Porto, of course it was disappointing to lose through a free kick, but what made it worse was that they had a penalty, so we saved that, and I thought, that's it, we're going to go on and win this game now because of the goalkeeper. Huge turning point in the game basically, and we were piling the pressure on them, and then they managed to score from a free kick, and just not enough time to score the equaliser, I suppose. So that was very disappointing. Alright, creative crowd, can you go away please? I'm trying to make a recording. I also need to push on into overload. Ajax have played the better football by the looks of the stats here, but we just can't afford to not go into overload because we need the 1 goal. So hopefully they don't hit us on the counter. They are playing incredibly defensive and dominating midfield, so we really need the wingers and our fullbacks to try and push on, but it doesn't look like there's enough time unless we get a last goal, last minute equalize. Alright, looks like we're just going to lose. And yeah, after that game against Porto, it turns out that the penalty decision was against us. It was, how I was telling you, some decisions you get your way, some you don't. They proved it to me right away with Porto getting a penalty that apparently they didn't deserve to get, according to the referee report afterwards. But yeah, in terms of the players performing well, who's performing well and who isn't. Oh crap! I told them don't look back and worry about it. But I was supposed to tell them we need to win these games. I said the wrong thing. And already we're looking seriously dangerous of missing out on qualifying for Europa League. I'd say we're still in for sure, but probably second place, not first. I don't see us coming back from this. And yeah, as you can tell, the Europa League draw is a much tougher draw, and we're suffering by the looks of it. We'll actually have a look at what the expectations are this season, but I think instead of second knockout round, they expect us to get into the first knockout round, which means we still do have to qualify from this group. And of course, that's very difficult, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, in terms of players who are performing well, I think if you saw at the homepage, Eduardo's having a great season for us so far. So last season, Santos was outperforming Eduardo. Eduardo didn't have too much of a great season. Let's see here, 8 goals, 1 assist, 2 player of the matches. That's not too bad, but in terms of, in comparison, Santos had double figures in both goals and assists. It's not as good. But this season, he started off really brightly, 7 appearances, 3 goals, 2 assists, and 1 player of the match. He's already our top goal scorer in all competitions as well, because I think these stats are just for the league. He's already top goal scorer with 6 goals to his name. Goyano's really adjusting to his new right back spot, which, as I told you guys from last season, he's much better in that spot because he is right-footed. So we moved him over, and then he's already playing much better. Last season he didn't play too great, I think. I mean, average rating of 7 says that he was really good, which is fair enough. He wasn't poor, but I think he's just performing, as you can see, 7.77. He's already performing much better than he was last season. He's the highest average rating so far. Santos, though, doesn't want to be completely outdone by Eduardo, and he's managing to hold the assist record for our team so far. So it's good to see Danilo, for ball-winning midfielder. It's good for us to see him have a great pass completion rate, and of course, it's also quite normal to see him pick up 6 yellow cards. So yeah, that was the Europa League. Hopefully our performances in the league are actually better. So last season we performed poorly in the cups in general, and we did perform kind of okay in the league as well, but we do want to see better performances in both. So yeah, and we also got the 3rd round Taca de Portugal. We expect to reach the 6th round. We drew against Real, the Portuguese championship instead, semi-professional club only, so we really should win this game quite easily. But yeah, like I said, in the Europa League, we have to reach the first knockout round, so if we don't qualify here, it's going to be dangerous. Of course, there's still 4 games to go, so it's not the end of the world. We are still going to play Dynamo. If we get, if we manage to beat them, that already puts us in 2nd. And again, if we get our revenge against Ajax and Standard, who knows what can happen. So we'll see what happens. But so far, not a good start to our Europa League in comparison to our league form, which has been a great start. So that's pretty much all for today's episode. And in terms of when we'll be back, it's actually just as always 5 games time. So we show you the 5th game. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be the game against Benfica, which is perfect for us because, as you can see here, they're in 2nd place, and we really need to assert our dominance on the league by beating them there. We also have other Premier League games like Boavista and Goimeres, our rivals here. It'll be interesting to see how we perform against both teams, considering our past meetings. Will it show here? Yes, let's see here. Alright, so we beat Boavista last time, but the time before that they managed to beat us. This one was obviously the one that was closer to, in terms of time, because now it's September. This one was in April. So that last season we did manage to beat them when we first faced them at home, and hopefully we can repeat that performance because we are at home again. But again, in terms of Goimeres, I think we've had a mixed results yet. We haven't really beaten our rivals yet, so it'll be good to see us do that this season. Against Benfica, though, we've had more luck, I would say. In the Super Taca, we managed to beat them. We got destroyed in the first Premier League game, but when we met them in May, when it really mattered for us, we did manage to come away with a 2-1 result, which they were lucky to get a goal with as well, and we really dominated that game, so hopefully we see more of that. More of wins against Real. Again, that should be a routine win, and against Dynamo that would be an important game and really the 3rd game of the Europa League, so we'll set the tone for the 2nd half of fixtures that we have for them there. And we get to face Dynamo again, so if we beat them back to back, it really sets us up for when we face Standard, and we face Ajax in the very end, so it shouldn't be too much pressure. Hopefully we'll be qualified by then already in the 2nd spot. But yeah, I think that'll be all for today's episode. So if you did enjoy it, then please do hit the like button and subscribe for more daily Football Manager 2017 content. And as always, guys, thank you all very much for watching.